is back. It's all clean. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Shelby. It's very nice to make your acquaintance. Today I am going to be doing a first impression videos on the new, well, sort of new, the new NARS Skin Deep eyeshadow palette. If you know me personally, you know that I'm obsessed with makeup. I've been obsessed with makeup for a while, and I love that like the neutral palette is in again, even though like there's so many eyeshadow palettes out there we don't need anymore. I saw this palette and pictures of this palette and I was just like, all right, I will give up all of my neutral palettes for this one palette. It just looks so nice, and I've never actually tried NARS eyeshadows on my eyes, so we're gonna do that today. I also got a little sample of the Urban Decay Brow Endowed. Ooh, Urban Decay came out with a whole new line of brow products, and this one is just like their brow primer and color. It's like a tinted brow gel, so I thought that we could test that out today. So if you guys would like to see this first impression, then just go ahead and keep on watching. Okay, so I'm gonna bust into this baby. It's a nice weight. I feel like it's a nice size. I feel like palettes just keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's like I can't take that when I'm traveling. Not that I travel a ton anymore, but like they're just overwhelming. So of course they have their NARS packaging. This is what their blushes and bronzer looks like. Yeah, I actually have a blush right here. So it kind of has that same almost like sort of like a matte feel to it. It gets really dirty, I will say. But I kind of like it better than like the felt. And these are the shadows. Now, a lot of people have been saying that on camera and in photos it kind of looks like more of a true neutral. I feel like there's a mixture of warm but also neutral. If you're like a really big cool tone person, you may not totally vibe with this palette, but I am a warm tone lover. But like the warm tones, you have like the gold and kind of this copper shade up here. I would say those are the warmest in the palette. As for everything else, it looks pretty neutral all across the board. So I think this will be good for all skin tones, all eye colors, you know what I mean. It looks great. Comes with this little plastic piece. It's just laid in there. And this amazing mirror. I love it. I love whenever eyeshadow palettes have really good and clear mirrors. Like there are definitely different qualities of mirrors out there, and this one is really nice, and it should be because it's expensive. I am just priming my eyes with the Born This Way concealer, the multi-sculpting one. I really like using concealer sometimes when I can't find my eyeshadow primer. It does the job, but I will say you need to have a concealer that will dry down to almost like a matte finish, because if you have like something that's really thick or super creamy, it's just going to slide around on your eyes all day, and it's defeating the purpose of like priming your lids with it. And today I'm not going to be doing swatches. I don't really like doing swatches. To be honest, they don't really tell me how the eyeshadow is going to work on the eyes. I feel like people started doing it just to really show the colors and what it looked like, but then YouTubers and viewers really started reading into, oh, if it's kind of patchy on my arm, that means it's a patchy shade overall. But like so many things go into play. Like for instance, if somebody has moisturized their skin, it's going to go on differently than if somebody has really dry skin. Okay, so first I'm going to dip into this little light shade. It is called Taunt, I believe is what it's called. I hate when eyeshadow names are on the back like this. Like I never know what they're called, but I do appreciate that this is compact. But again, like I don't know what it's called. It's just this creamy bone shade. So I'm going to put this all over my lids. It's definitely darker than my natural skin tone, but I think it'll just be a good setting shade. I like to set my eyeshadow primer, my concealer, even though I don't really need to because this dries down to a matte finish. I feel like I get a better blend, you know? It's also been like a big thing in the YouTube space to either you prime or you don't prime. I just think that's based off personal preference and how you apply your eyeshadow and what you like. I've tried them both ways. I like to set mine because I feel like if I go in really heavy with eyeshadow, having sort of that under layer of powder kind of helps everything blend out a little bit more. I feel like people who don't set with a powder are very brave. Next, I'm going to go in to this shade. It looks very cool tone in the camera, but I think in person it is more on the cool it is more on the cool side, but more of like a taupier shade, but I would call it a neutral. I wouldn't call it a cool tone. And I'm just going to sort of use this as my transition shade through the crease. So far, everything is going on really nice and smooth. All right, so now that I have a transition shade, I think I'm going to go in, what do I want to do? Do I want to do something cool, or do I kind of want to do something in between? I think I'm going to go into this bigger shade. I like that the mattes are bigger and sort of like these transition colors because I feel like you use more of those anyway. This is the one right next to this bone shade. I think it's called Sophia. And I'm going to take it on a little blender brush like this. And I'm just going to pick that up and buff that through the crease. I also have this weird spot on this eye. I've noticed this, my friend Jackie, whenever I do her makeup, she has something like this as well, where I have like a patch right here where like eyeshadow just never wants to stick to it. So it tends to gather sort of here at the end of my eye, and I feel like it always makes my eyeshadow look messy, but I just don't, like, I have tried before to go in and just pack it right in that area, and honestly, it just doesn't want to stick. It's the most bizarre thing. Okay, so this is what we have so far. The eyeshadow looks absolutely beautiful. Any patchiness that you see is due to just those areas on my eyes that I talked about. It has nothing to do with the shadow. It's absolutely so nice. I like it a lot. But now I am going to go in with this really dark brown shade, and I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to take it on sort of like this smaller round, it's not really a crease brush, but it could be. It's not a pencil brush. It's just kind of smaller, so you can really get this outside edge. I think what I want to do today is like a halo eye because I tend to do the same eye looks, the same shape on my eye. So for the halo eye, what you're going to do is you're going to start placing the shadow in the place where you want it to be the most intense. So I'm going to kind of place it at the base, and then I'm going to sort of wiggle my brush side to side and fan it up sort of into this crease, but we're not going to go above the crease. We're just going to kind of keep it to the outside. A lot of people like to do a specific shape. I don't think it's really necessary to get a specific shape just because it's really hard to get like a very precise shape, and honestly we're just going to cover it up with a little bit of our middle shadow. And I'm going to keep it to the outside, and then I'm also going to dip back into that shade, not too much of it, and I'm going to start on the inner eye. So I come in with it like this direction. I don't want to come in like this. I want to do it kind of from above, and I'm going to start dipping this in the inner corner. Now, with the inner corner, you have to be a little careful. You don't want to really darken up this inner corner. It's a lot easier to get rid of lighter shadows because you can always put a darker eyeshadow over top. But when it comes to darker shadows, you can blend it out and you can put a lighter shade to help blend it out. But ultimately, it's going to be a lot harder to remove eyeshadow than to add. So we want to slowly build this. And then what I'm also going to do is kind of take whatever's left over and kind of run it through the crease, but again, keeping it low. I'm not going to be dragging it up here, keeping it low. And we're going to kind of connect the two just a little bit, so you have this tiny little, like a fingerprint size, at least my fingerprints, I have pretty small fingers, like a pinky print size in your eye, in the center of your eye right there. Okay, so I am back. I have my eyes done in the halo eye. I will say that this darker shade definitely is patchier than these shades. I feel like sometimes when you have darker shades like this one, I've always dealt with patchiness and darker shades, but it is a little bit disappointing. I'm also going to go back into the 2 shades that we ran through our crease, just mix them together, and I'm just going to kind of define above that crease a little bit more, because sometimes they get a little raccoony if you don't really, I guess, fade out. And since this shade is so dark, I do want to have that nice shadow fade up towards the brow. And also remember, I don't have my brows done, I don't have my face done. Everything looks a lot better whenever you do put on your brows and have on your mascara and things like that. So just because it kind of looks like this and you're probably freaking out, just push through it, finish your entire makeup look, and then if you're really, really disappointed in the eyeshadow, you can always take a makeup wipe and kind of wipe it off and redo it. But I just always say that because I have had some clients where I was doing their makeup and they want to see what it looks like before I finish everything, and it's kind of like, no, you don't want to do that, I promise you. So this is what we have again so far. So now it's time to pop this inner portion with the shadows, and for that I am going to be taking this nice shimmer shade here on the very end. I think this is called Centerfold maybe? It's this nice sort of, I would say more, not even cool tone, I would say more of this neutrally taupey champagne-y shade. It's really nice. It looks really, really pretty in the pan. And for that, I'm going to be taking a little flat shader brush like this. As you can tell, it's pretty flat. I really love using really flat ones for shimmer shades. It just grips onto them so much better, especially if you're wanting it to be in a very small area. You don't want to have a brush that's too big or too fluffy, so I'm taking some on the end, and then I'm going to, starting at the base, just kind of pop that in the center. And you can go over the line and kind of almost blending the shimmer shade and the darker shades that we have, kind of blending it together. This is what we have so far. I am going to go ahead and put on my base makeup. I'm going to do my brows, but I'm going to come back and do a demo of our Urban Decay little guy, and we're going to see how that works. And then I'm going to finish up the lower lash line. So I will be right back. Okay, so I am back. My base is done, and I have filled in my eyebrows with just a little bit of brow powder. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills brow powder. I've been obsessed with doing my brows like this. And then over top, I have been using Glossier's Boy Brow in medium to really fluff them up and make them look so fluffy and so full and nice. But today we are going to be using this little brow endowed primer and color. So I got the shade Taupe. Step 1, swipe on the primer to amp up the volume of your existing brows, and then you coat it. So I am going to go over this with the primer, and I always have to have something underneath. I can't just do brow gel because I honestly don't have enough brows to just do like a brow gel. Okay, so this definitely is kind of like a creamy shade. It's not a pure white, but I'm just going to kind of fluff my brows up, and I can already tell that it's really making my brows look like I have a lot of them. It's kind of giving the illusion that I have really thick brow hairs, and I'm liking it so far. I'm gonna try it on this side. It's almost a little chunky, so I'm kind of having to go through it a couple of times, but I think that's like the point, is it's kind of like what an eyelash primer does to your eyelashes. It makes you look like you have a thicker lash. So this is what we have going on so far. I think I'm gonna let that dry. Do I let it dry? Now I'm going to take this brush in, kind of has a little bit of a dip in it. I don't know if it's supposed to have that or if mine just came bent. Anyway, I'm going to turn it like this and I'm going to start filling in my brows and pushing everything sort of up. Oh wow. I feel like it does definitely make you look like, give you the illusion that you have a lot more brows than you actually do, but I feel like they just kind of almost look clumpy. Like, see how they just kind of all stick together like one big mass instead of like very separated individual hairs. So far I like it. I will say I don't like it as much as my Glossier Boy Brow. I feel like that Glossier does a really good job of kind of separating and giving you this fluffy appearance, but also they stay put. This is like cementing my brows down, but I wish they were a little more separated, if that makes sense. I'm just going to go back in to this sort of rusty shade that we used earlier. I'm going to take a little bit of a smaller brush, like the one that we used on our outer corners. Actually, I think that is the one I used. What I'm going to be doing is loading this up with that brown shade, and then I'm just going to go right underneath the eye to really smoke it out. I feel like when you do really smoky sort of eyes that are kind of dark, you almost need to bring it underneath the eye because it balances everything. I'm kind of smoking it almost down into like your eye bag, or if I had a really defined eye bag, it would kind of be in this area. And I'm just kind of smoking it out and then also bringing it up to sort of that eyeshadow and just kind of connecting everything. And then going to go under the other side. So this is what we have, and I'm taking an even smaller brush. This is a little pencil brush, and I'm dipping back into the darkest brown shade that we used, and I'm going to go in really tight, the closest I can get to the waterline, and just placing that more along the outer edge just to deepen it up a little bit. But I don't want to drag it down so far because I don't want to look like Avril Lavigne circa like 2015. You know what I mean? Wait, 2015? What am I talking about? 2005, 2006, 2007? I don't want to look like her. Okay, so this is the final eye look. I'm going to go put on some mascara and I'm going to tightline my upper waterline, and then I'll be right back with my final thoughts on everything. I have completed my look. I just also did a little Fenty Beauty lip paint in the shade Uncuffed. I think it's just a really nice little lip, and I feel like I'm very done up for daytime. I feel like this is very like night appropriate makeup look. But so far my thoughts on the NARS eyeshadow palette, I think it's definitely worth it, especially if you're a makeup artist and you need to have really good neutral shades in your collection. I think everyone needs to have those staple neutral shades and something that's going to kind of last. I feel like Morphe shadows just, I like them, they just don't last long enough in my opinion. I think something like this, even though I haven't worn this for an extended amount of time, I will do that and then I will leave below kind of how it worked out and how long it lasted and how good it looked. But I can only assume that these are going to last and not really fade throughout the night. But I'm very impressed. I like NARS shades. The only one that I kind of had a little bit of trouble was the darker shade, but again, a lot of dark shades can end up a little patchy, but I think the final look turned out really nice. I am pleasantly surprised. So if you have the money to spend on a neutral palette and you don't already have one, this would be a great one to invest in. As far as the eyebrow gel goes, I think it is really nice. However, I don't think it's going to take over my boy brow. I'm not exactly sure how much it costs, but I know that boy brow is like $18 or something, and in my opinion this is good, but I'm not going to be replacing my brow gel if it doesn't trump my current one, if that makes sense. But if you guys did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You can hit the subscribe button if you would like to be a member of my small but growing family, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!